Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hinamizawa. Unfortunately, our Oishi is busy at this critical moment, so we're gonna need somebody else to voice Tepe. Who wants dibs?
Sure.
What? Nobody wants to. Nobody wants to voice
No, I said
like
yeah.
the best character. Oh, okay.
They said
Fat,
that.
repulsive old man.
That's a different character.
Which
Anyway,
one?
There's so
anyway.
many to choose from.
Then, as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. This is right after we called me on, and she kind of figured out that we're off to make some tepe burgers. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi, and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer, the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out of the world, and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi had been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No. Maybe even longer than that! When I decided I'd be her Nini. Oh, okay. I was getting excited. I thought he finally realized that he's Satoshi, but no.
Satoshi was phone.
I kind of want that theory to be real, because that is one of the earlier ones I came up with, if I remember right. But I've thrown so many darts at the dartboard at this point, like, one of them's gotta come true eventually, right? Anyway.
No.
When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then, too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini even now, the kind worthy of Sadako's love? I'd never met him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him. I'd never felt that way before. Oh, we stopped like right at the end of a chapter. Dang. Higurashi, when they cry.
I have to take a shit already?
Yes. Ooh, note on the housewife murder case. The achievement is called Possessed, by the way, for that one. It's a picture of Satoshi's bat. Oh wait, that's not that. Wait, the full name of the tip is way longer than it said. For the attention of those on the housewife slaughter incident case, Grumble, do you want to take
That
this
like
one?
Google
Do
translated.
you want to take this one
What?
since you got cocked out of the housewife case last time?
What?
All the way back in
what?
chapter 1?
No. No.
Alright, well, somebody take this
July
one.
blank, 1982. Okinamiya Police Station, 1st Investigative Division. Chief Takasugi.
I think that guy's been mentioned.
Blank Prefecture Police Headquarters for the eradication of drug-related crime. Shishibone Branch Head, blank blank. Regarding incident underscore designated as undercover investigation. This message is to inform you that a section of the testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. I cannot parse that sentence. That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question. Okinamiya Police Station X, Hinamizawa Village housewife slaughter incident.
These are just words.
Yeah, this is just a lot of words. During investigation of suspect blank blank, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was testimony alluding to the crime in question, and it became clear that it contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you. Duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect blank blank was the perpetrator in the incident in question. In addition, on receiving this testimony, the head investigator on the case inquired as to the incident with the Okinomiya police station.
It's okay.
But the responsible party at... Look, the text got smaller. But the responsible party at Okinomiya police station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as an undercover investigation by executive order from Prefectural Police Headquarters on July 1st, 1982, General Administrations B1-12. They did not explain the incident's existence to the head of investigator, as they should have.
How long was that sentence?
Very.
Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question. And as a result, was negligent in combing the scene. We apologize for having effectively ignored it until now. In addition, there is a postscript stating that suspect blank blank died while in confinement yesterday on XXX.
I feel like I retained almost none of that.
Yeah, same.
Look, point is, he died in prison. That was the main point, I think. Moving on. Also, they were negligent in the investigation. Apparently.
So what you're saying is Jeffrey Epstein might be related to the Hinamizawa murder case?
Sunday. The fireworks I heard before noon were probably to announce the opening of the festival. And the weather certainly wasn't festival weather. It was cloudy. Is it going to be raining? Ooh. Oh!
There's a risk of rain?
2? The television
Returns?
forecast was calling for possible downpours, starting this evening and lasting until around midnight. But as long as it wasn't raining at the moment, the festival would go on. The festival had to open, or it wouldn't begin. This is a new track. The Furude Shrine Grounds were probably decorated beautifully for the big performance that only happened once a year. Many paper lanterns were hung up in all the auspicious colors of red and white. The sound of electric motors at the stalls. The voices of kids running around. Their happy families watching them, smiling. Today was the festival of Watanagashi. Was everyone already partaking in the festivities? What about Sadako? Had she forgotten her days of suffering for just a few moments, while smiling that brilliant smile she hadn't in so long? This would probably be the longest day of my life. It would be a day I would remember vividly for as long as I lived. I told my parents I'd go to the festival this evening and lounged about during the early afternoon.
As long as you lived. Oh, that's only gonna be like 3 more days.
You're probably not wrong. It is called the shortest scenario, so... My assumption is it probably won't last very long after Watanagashi's over. Anyway. We may have lived under the same roof, but they couldn't help being surprised by the deviation from how I usually spent my time. Glancing at my parents out of the corner of my eye, I went to the front door. I tied my shoes just a little tighter than normal, as if to express the firmness of my resolve in those knots. When I decided to murder Sadako's uncle, I'm just so happy about this. I was in such a state of excitement, I almost went crazy. Almost? And when I was...
He isn't crazy. He's
calmer.
already crazy.
The more excited he is.
And when I was planning out the act of a murder, which went directly against all the morals fostered in me thus far, I was in such a state of calm I almost thought I had lost my emotions. And then, yesterday, when I learned Satoshi had made the exact same phone call as me, I didn't know how to describe the muddled feelings I had then. And now, entering today. Right now, I lacked all the emotions I'd possessed until now. To make a simple analogy, it was the kind of feeling you might get right after you wake up, when you're still half asleep and you don't feel anything very clearly. I had no anger towards that man for the violence he'd committed against Sadako. Nor did I feel sadness towards or sympathize with her. I felt no discontent toward my friends, who had just waited and watched, never reaching out to her with any help, and no nervousness or fear towards the day that had finally come. Yeah, they never. His friends never once helped in any capacity. Remember, they didn't do anything.
They all suck.
Yeah, he's the only one who really cares if you think about it. Yes, right now, you could say I was in the best possible condition for carrying out a murder. He's at peak performance, guys. Good news. When it came down to it, I would probably need to let my violent emotions take control. But right up until that moment, I would be like an insect. Like some sort of, I would slowly, surely, and silently move toward my one objective. And then, when I had my prey, I'd attack like a bullet. There was no emotion in that. Just the creeping mindset insects possessed. That sort of sneaking feeling was just the best. I would kill Sadako's uncle like he was a worm. I had to laugh a little at thinking that way, thinking like an insect. Tug. I tightened my laces one more time and walked out the door. I brought the shovel out of the front storeroom. I would need it to dig the man's grave. The shovel was a convenient one made for camping. If I twisted it like so and split it into 3, I could easily hide it in my bag. I twisted the shovel and dismantled it. And even though I'd done it countless times before, I had trouble for some reason. Like I was suddenly clumsy now. I knew why. It wasn't because I was nervous. Are you sure? My weak-willed self, deep within me, was hesitant. Keiichi, that's like the same thing. I knew that the act of dismantling this shovel was the first step I'd take to becoming a murderer.
The first?
Yeah, this is just happening now. He's never thought about murder before now.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I
I
believe
think
that.
thinking about it is a bit different than digging a hole in the ground. Anyway, the last twist was conspicuously difficult, but it finally submitted before the strength of my determination.
Whoa.
Oh, Undertale reference.
The area around
Dunder Frail?
the area around Sansa's house, I mean Sadako's house, was outside my circle of activity.
So stupid.
But even just riding my bike in the middle of the day like this might seem suspicious to an observant person. I definitely want to avoid meeting and talking to someone I knew. With that in mind, I chose the route to my destination carefully. I didn't mind going the long way around. With how long this day would be, I could never be too careful, after all. Still, I was fortunate enough not to run across anybody on my way to the planned site of the crime. I wasn't superstitious at this point, but it was a good omen. At this point? The place I would dig the hole was in this grove, a little further into the woods. I was worried I might not make it to the same place as before, since there were no signs to guide me, but I arrived there smoothly and as expected. I took another look around. Not even a hint of human presence. The air was a little bit damp, but it was comfortable in the cool shade of the trees. I took the disassembled shovel out of my bag and began skillfully putting it together. Then, I stuck the tip of the shovel into a soft-looking patch of ground and pushed onto it with my foot. The shovel would split the earth if I put some strength into that foot. The act of doing so seemed awfully like the point of no return, and it made me hesitate. I was just digging a hole with a shovel, but it made me gulp hard. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Let's do a countdown. 1500, 1499, 1498. Get it done on the count of 3, okay? Alright. 1, 2. I couldn't do it on the countdown, despite it just being sticking the shovel into the ground. And I had to count down 5 or 6 times. That's me whenever I have to take bad-tasting medicine. Damn it. I'm just digging a hole. This is pathetic. As I thought that, I put my strength into my heel like I was stepping on something unpleasant. And split came the sharp noise. It was only soft at the beginning. Roots and stones quickly got in my way, informing me just how hard it was to dig a hole big enough for a person. No decent person would ever come here anyway. Maybe it would be enough to cover him up with some dirt. No, don't do that, Keiichi! Keiichi, you need to dig it deep! Hey, Keiichi, it's gonna rain, remember? Every time a naive thought like that crept into my mind, I bit down on it with my teeth and dug even harder. Okay, good. Get your head in the game, Keiichi. I've dug enough now.
You gotta commit to the murder.
Well, yeah, he is going to commit murder.
We gotta commit to it.
Yeah, he's gotta commit to committing murder. I've dug enough now.
Gotta commit to the bit.
I could hide him like this. Every time I thought that, I would go down into the hole, grow disappointed at how shallow it was, and return to digging. The thin layer of sweat on my brow eventually formed into drops and fell to the ground. My back was in even worse shape. My damp shirt adhered to my skin, and it felt so disgusting. The things I couldn't stand the most were the mosquitoes. Maybe they were attracted by the scent of my sweat. The white and black striped mosquitoes would cling to me whenever I let my guard down. It was hot. It was disgusting. I was sticky. I was itchy. All those uncomfortable feelings surged through me in waves.
Damn it all. So what? Telling me to pack up and go home? Is that it?
I hadn't yelled at anyone. It was me talking to myself. Me telling myself something. Why was I feeling this way? And digging a hole all the way out here? What benefit would digging this hole give me? What harm would there be in not digging this hole at all? Wait, in the first place, who ordered me to dig? That's a good question, actually. That might be the first good question Keiichi's ever asked. When I thought it over, maybe, ever since grade school, or even before that, my whole life had only been me doing what other people told me to. I didn't mean it was somehow constrained, living a life just based on the commands of others. And I didn't mean I was too lazy to try and find my own road in life. Metaphorically speaking, yes, it was like a road. I'd never been particularly physically fit. I didn't hit puberty very early, and if all my classmates and I got in a line, I'd usually be on the shorter end. My scores in jump rope competitions and marathons were the very picture of average.
Short Keiichi.
I mean, he is a child. And it wasn't like the captains of the dodgeball teams would have a passionate rock-paper-scissors contest, sorry, you mean Janken-po contest, to see which would get me. During those kindergarten and grade school years, It felt like someone was only worth how fast they grew and how fit they were. Looking back on it now, it was really uncomfortable for me. The thing that turned all that around was just a few words from my mother. Who wants Keiichi's mom?
Keiichi, would you like to go to cram school? You'll better grasp what you're learning in school, and it'll be more fun.
The very first test I took at cram school was kind of like a game. It was a lot of fun.
The game, by the way.
It wasn't like the tests with the exact same problem dozens of times in a row. Every question had a picture to it, almost like one of those puzzle books that came with manga magazines. This sounds like a test you would take to see if you have autism or not. I would know.
They didn't believe in autism back then.
I've taken one of those tests before, so this sounds very familiar to me. If my studies at school had been like this, it would have been way more fun. Several days later, I went to the cram school again with my mother and the enrollment paperwork. Mom and the person at the cram school had a really long, heated discussion, so I accidentally dozed off and missed most of what they said, but I clearly remember one point. Mom had made a loud groan, surprised at something.
By 61, do you mean his average score was 61 points?
No, not at all, Miss Marbara. The deviation from the mean of all of our cram schools across the country is 61. He's showing extraordinary numbers, even on a simple intelligence test.
See, I told you guys, he's book smart, he's just not street smart at all.
But is he money smart? First, I would like to say that Keiichi Marbara-kun is extremely bright.
I'm gonna screenshot that. That's thumbnail material, I think.
A lot of things are thumbnail material.
Keiichi? But he doesn't have very good grades at school. He has average marks on his report card. B's, C's, D's. Is there some kind of mistake?
We cross-checked with several tests as well, and we learned some very interesting things as a result. Marbara-kun is extremely weak when faced with questions that don't have any meaning.
That's probably important.
What would that even mean?
He just has no interest in simple, dull questions that don't have to do with everyday life.
No,
Oh,
I
see.
understand what he means. I can kind of relate to Keiichi on this a little bit, to be honest.
So even if he doesn't know what 2 plus 3 is, if you told him he has 2 apples and then got 3 more, he would understand that sort of question?
That's right. For example, instead of telling him to draw a flattened, foldable cube, what if we asked him what a die would look like when cut open? If we did that, he could answer beautifully.
Then the person from the cram school showed her a page from one of the exams I took. It was a paper with questions about construction. Construction questions were unusual, so they were really cool, weren't they?
In this question, it asked to draw an unfolded regular icosahedron, a shape with 20 faces. When we rephrased it and asked him to show how he would cut out a piece of cardboard to create a 20-sided die, Keiichi-kun drew the answer as though it were easy. This is not something an average child can do.
Yeah, I definitely remember questions like that on those autism tests. Anyway.
Ichi, have you ever made a die with 20 sides from a magazine extra or anything?
Dice only went from 1 to 6. Clearly you don't play Dungeons & Dragons. I never even considered before this test that there were dice with more than 6 sides. So it was fun to imagine what kind of shape a die that went up to 20 would have. If I had a die like that, I could win at Snakes and Ladders against anyone. So I immediately wanted to make it. Finally, I entered cram school. There were only 4 students in the class they put me in, which was called Select. It was the highest class, and some of my classmates were in lower classes. And when I remembered how much better they had done at things like dodgeball and the 50-meter sprint, I felt happiness well up within me for the first time. Even if I wasn't as good as them physically, that's a typo, I triumphed over them in other ways. It was fun at first. The more I did, the more I was praised. My teachers at school suddenly started pampering me, and it felt good. My parents were satisfied too, and I enjoyed seeing them satisfied. The more I listened to my parents' commands, the more fun things got. That did happen, didn't it? I grinned dryly in self-deprecation. Because, well, my studious lifestyle didn't end up lasting very long. It was only at the beginning I enjoyed learning more and more. I gradually got along less with my friends. My classes were behind what I was learning in cram school, and I eventually stopped respecting the teachers, given that they could put me to sleep with their lectures. And, well, I was a disagreeable sort who bragged a lot about how much I knew. And the ways of the world wouldn't let me remain in that state of ecstasy forever. I would do as I was told, and then I'd go above and beyond their expectations, and then they praised me. I was happy for that, and the cycle repeated itself like wheels on a bike. I thought moving forward like that was like how life worked, like a bicycle. When I moved to Hinamizawa, I realized just how inadequate it was. Some things happened, and we started saying how moving and getting a change in atmosphere would be nice. And then my father, he had a place he liked, that he'd gone to a few times to draw the nature. He started saying that he wanted to bring his... I always forget how to pronounce this word.
Atelier.
Atelier?
Atelier.
Okay. We'll say it's that. With me in blank amazement, they decided to move to Hinamizawa. English is so easy, you just gotta sound it out, guys. And after that, I met them, didn't I? The first day after transferring here. Oh! This'll be interesting. I went to the classroom with the teacher. I thought it would seem pitiful for her to bring me in there, so I placed my hand on the door before she could, slammed it open, and set foot into the room. Clatter. The thrilling, powerful way I opened that door was none other than my own determination to try doing my life over again. And then, within seconds, that determination took a hard counter to the face. A blackboard eraser fell on me. Plus, there was a huge rock inside. It was a supremely painful trap someone had set up. Oh, come on. Sadako was already beating me right from the first day I transferred? That frightened me. I was bewildered. The class was surprised, too. I wasn't just surprised that the students in the class were all different grades and were different genders. Oh yeah, I guess schools at this time in Japan wouldn't have been co-ed, huh? It was because the room felt completely different from the schools I knew. And as I spent more time with them, my surprise continued to grow. This fresh sense of surprise had never left my life, even to this day. Every day was a fresh new surprise. I've never had a boring day since coming here. A single boring day since coming here. The days were lively, spent with the other club members. We played Old Maid with cards with scratches on the back to cheat. We let our passions go wild during our games. We went all out as regular participants in tournaments at the toy store in town, and many, many more things. Wait, so then he probably gave the doll to Rena, right? Still? I'm sorry, I'm just
Maybe.
trying to sort this out of my head right now. Cause like if the old maid game repeated in this timeline, then maybe that did as well. That would probably be important. Anyway, recently...
Isn't Old Maid a pretty common game over there, though?
Did you not see what he said? We played Old Maid with cards with scratches on the back to cheat.
Oh yeah, isn't it a commonly played game? That's just something that
With
could happen.
scratches on the back to cheat.
Yeah.
They would do that every single time they played Old Mate, though. I think they made that clear before. In Chapter 1.
Yeah, but what I am saying is that is the same event that happened in Chapter 1. I don't think that's a different game of Old Maid. It would have played out the exact same way. Anyway, moving on. Recently, during those times, there was the bento competition. It was then. That's when I saw an unexpected side to Sadako. I'm not saying that in particular is important, I'm saying that it might be important to look for repeated events. More so. Anyway, moving on. That's when I saw an unexpected side to Sadako. Thinking back on it, I only ate dinner with her 2 nights. It was such a sweet, gentle time spent, and it warmed my heart remembering it even now. I realized that Sadako was pretending to be stubborn and firm, and how brave she was, part of her heart always waiting for her Nini to come home. And I vowed to become her Nini. Sadako may have been nagging and overly critical, but she knew how to take care of someone. But though it might have seemed like she was taking the lead, it was actually her way of depending upon another person. Even if Satoshi and Sadako's lives as siblings were confined by their uncle and his wife, they were still warm, sunny days. When did those sunny days go all wrong? What mistake was made? Lamenting tragedies of the past would do no good, and I told myself that so many times, but I did anyway. Keiichi, isn't that why you chose your own path? To take back that life? Nobody ordered you to do this. I'm not sure about that. You decided it on your own. You don't desire anyone's praise for this. Okay, that last part's probably true. You thought it all through yourself, even though you're doing the exact same thing as Satoshi. You'll carve it out yourself. And you'll do it now. This wasn't a path I could see very far down, not like the road parents or society could offer. It was a narrow path, dark and utterly distressing, one for which the next step would always be shrouded in darkness. But that disheartening path would keep on going forever. It was an unlimited path, and there was nowhere I couldn't travel. The kind of path only available to those to imagine where they wanted to go, able to imagine where they wanted to go. Don't be ashamed at breaking from the brightly lit, paved road. In fact, feel proud that you found your very own path to walk. And I hadn't discarded the paved road either. Once I achieved my goal, I would go back to that bright road, and then I'd spend those average sunny days at my leisure. Or leisure, depending on how you pronounce it. Crush. When I realized it, the hole had grown so deep, I couldn't believe it. Good job, Keiichi. Did I dig all this myself?
I think digging this much is enough, right?
Maybe the ghost of Satoshi helped him.
True. Maybe Oyashiro-sama was just like over his shoulder going like, push on the shovel harder, boy. Anyway.
Maybe Oishi was over his shoulder.
What you doing there, kiddo? That's a nice hole. Gonna put any bodies in it? Anyway, I put my shovel into the bottom of the hole. I would drag the body here, throw it into the hole, and cover it up with dirt. Even if it took me time to camouflage it by putting plants on top. Hey, he's actually thinking ahead! Good job, Keiichi! Now how are you gonna fuck this up? It would all go much more easily than digging this hole had. I glanced at my watch. Oh yeah, people would have had watches back then. I forgot about that.
He looks at his
I have a
like
watch.
iPhone 7 in like 1983.
Listen, it's hard. It's
Good
it's
Wi-Fi
hard
out
to
here.
not take things for granted. Anyway, it was almost evening, and I hadn't realized it. I may not have felt the time passing, but digging a hole this deep must have taken quite a lot of time. I took a seat on a slanted rock nearby, and wiped the sweat from my brow. Now, once it got a little darker, I'd go get the metal bat I hid in the schoolyard. Then I'd make the call to lure him out. And then, I'd do it. The number of things I needed to do to reach that moment were dwindling. I felt that moment closing in on me much more keenly than I did the passage of time. I didn't have any hesitation, but I still felt that. A contradiction. At every step in this process, I had a few chances to hesitate, to turn back, to let myself lose the nerve. Having to endure those million temptations and wait for when the time was right was an indescribably slow and painful torture. I had thought myself acting all weak because of that, but I stopped midway through. This was okay. It was fine. I could detest the abnormal act of homicide as much as I wanted, and it didn't matter. I wasn't going to be a cutthroat killer after today. I would pass through this strange day and go back to the world I was in before. If I fell to the level of a psychopath who thought nothing of killing, I wouldn't be able to go back to my old life. So this was fine with me. I didn't have to feel ashamed at hesitating to kill. Because I was human. It was so funny to me that I'd be the bearer of Oyashiro-sama's curse at the same time I was aware I was human. I exhaled lightly and stood. I concealed my presence and sharpened my senses in all directions, to search for anyone around but me. Okay, let's go. One step at a time. I would walk my own path. A path no one had forced me to walk.
Let's do this, Keiichi Maebara.
The cicadas made an annoying fuss. Their chorus covered up the suspicious noise of me breaking twigs underfoot. And their chorus filled the path far ahead of me, letting me know that I would be alone for some time. The cicadas blessed the path I walked, encouraging me with every last ounce of strength they had. By the way, I liked how when he was digging the hole, he was like, "This sucks, I'm sweating, it's hot, my back hurts." Like, I actually kind of love it in media when doing a crime is depicted as being really tedious and obnoxious. I enjoy that greatly. Anyway, the sky was far above. In not even an hour, the veil of night would draw near, and the sky would be tinted with dusk. By that time, the Higurashi would let me hear their chorus in place of the cicadas.
Like Dusk, the hit video game.
Yes, like the hit video game, Dusk. When that happened, would everything be over with? Would everything have ended? I said something along those lines when I left Sadako's fate up to a public agency. But this time was different. I would do it. I would carry it out. I would end it. It would all be over very soon. Everything would end. Yes, when the Higurashi cried.
Title drop?
Oh, did he start learning how to use like the scripter in this chapter? That was crazy.
He flashed the background a few times. He's a master hacker.
Well, I mean, he hasn't really done much stuff like that before, has he? With, like, the text going at different speeds and stuff. Anyway.
I mean, it's getting spicier as it goes along.
Well, again, this is his first work, so I wouldn't be surprised if he only just now figured out how to use it.
When do you think we're
his first
suddenly going to
VN,
get
I
to...
should say.
Which chapter do you think
is it?
we're going to
Is
get
it really
set
not?
loose into, like...
Is it not his first time programming a VN? I know he's worked on other stuff, but I thought that was writing.
No, it's fucking... What is it called? I forgot the name of it. The one about yokai.
He's written... he already wrote one about yokai himself. I don't know what you're referring to specifically, but I know it's not the one I'm thinking.
The first When They Cry game. This is the second.
Is it?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Damn, now we have to go back and read that.
Alright,
I
cancel the
have
stream.
no idea what you're talking about. I genuinely don't. Anyway, there was nobody at school. You might be thinking of Hinamizawa Bus Stop, which I have not read because it's basically shorter Higurashi, so I'm not gonna read that. Anyway, I couldn't hear the playful voices of the children. This was the first time I'd seen the school with such a lack of human presence. Still, I quieted my breath and looked around, not wanting to be unprepared. It had gotten darker outside, but it was almost like my eyes could see more clearly now. I made absolutely sure of my safety, then walked to the heavy construction machine I'd hidden the metal bat behind. I had a tinge of worry, a premonition, that someone had found the bat and hidden it somewhere else as a prank. If that happened, would I take that as an opportunity to desist? If it really wasn't there, then I would just use the golf club in my dad's garage, which I definitely didn't forget about. The sensation of chilled metal. It was still here where I left it. It hadn't run away. Satoshi hadn't run away. He'd waited here patiently. For me.
Sorry for the wait, Satoshi. It's been a long time coming. You prepared for this?
Through the metallic touch, Satoshi grins at me in my mind. That's what I should be asking, you know. Wait, what? What? Okay, does somebody want to do Satoshi narration? What is this? Or should I also do Satoshi narration? This is weird.
Well, aren't you insisting that Keiichi is Satoshi, so you should voice both?
I guess so. I'm trying to think of what I would do for Satoshi's voice. That's what I should be asking, you know. I did this last year already. You should be more worried about yourself.
Right on, Satoshi. Let's show him a bad time. Is that a fucking Sans Undertale reference?
Satoshi's bat got lighter and lighter, and fit into my hands like it was being absorbed.
Satoshi.
It didn't feel wrong to swing this. I could move it around so naturally, it was like an extension of my own right arm. Of course it felt like that. Satoshi and I were holding one bat together. Next, I would make the call to lure the man out. Oh yeah, here we go! It wasn't a bad time for it. My friends were doubtlessly parading happily through the stalls. I hadn't considered where to make the call from. My house and Sadako's were pretty far apart. If I called from my house, I wouldn't make it. Couldn't I use the school phone? But, as I thought, the room was locked up, and I couldn't get in. Shit. I'm so naive. You should have at least figured this part out. I couldn't call him. And just for that, was today all over? I'm sorry, Satoshi. And just as I cursed my own naivete, A miracle occurred. A bicycle came into the schoolyard. It was a familiar, middle-aged man. The one from the Forest Service field office. Wait, that's not familiar. Wait, what? Who? Hold on, let me check. Do I need to check my notes? Who the fuck is this guy?
Was
Hi.
this one of the people they were making curry for?
Oh, wait, yeah. Didn't he tell her to go, like, water the curry garden? Or tell him to water the curry garden? Yeah, wait, okay, yeah, okay, I remember now. I wouldn't say that's a familiar face, but moving on. Why? Wasn't today Sunday? Was he here to pick up something he forgot? Anyway, the forest officer went around back and felt around in his pocket, then unlocked the door and entered. The best possible coincidence. And it had to be Satoshi who saved me. The metal bat, through just my contact with it, told me this was the chance I couldn't allow to slip by. The sections for the forest office and the school were neatly separated. I felt the man head into the forest office's storehouse, which was so far back students weren't allowed into it. The door didn't match its fittings well, so it didn't close all the way, and the gap in the door slowly opened as if to lure me in. I took a deep breath and went in. I tiptoed along, silently and stealthily, and made it into the teacher's lounge. It was the only place with a phone. As I held my breath in the teacher's lounge, I heard the Forest Service officer walking back over. Then, the back door clattered shut and was locked. I glanced out the window at the schoolyard and watched as the man got on his bike like nothing had happened and rode out the school gate. By the way, I want to say, I do think it's interesting that we got Keiichi's, like, pretty much full backstory in the chapter where he's planning a murder. I think that's kind of funny. Anyway. The school once again emptied, becoming deathly silent.
Deathly? Like murder.
Yes, like murder. I waited a bit to make sure the silence was the real deal, then reached for the telephone on the principal's desk. I fished Sadako's house's phone number out of my pocket. Yes, the number in the class directory for Sadako had been the one for their house now, where she lived with their uncle. I touched the dial with my fingers, and then thought for a moment about what to say exactly when he picked up. No, Keiichi! No! You didn't think about this? No! Despite how many times I'd gone over it in my head last night. Oh, okay. Now that I had my finger on the dial like this, it started to seep out of my mind like a cracked bucket leaking water. This is me whenever I have to make a phone call.
This is me whenever I have to make a metaphor.
Simple would be best. More importantly, to say it straight and not sound suspicious. I counted off 3 heartbeats and spun the dial. The call sound. Would Sadako's uncle pick up? Now, of all times, the hope that he wouldn't pick up, and the feeling of doom and the knowledge that I couldn't save Sadako if he didn't, rolled around in a vortex.
Hello?
It was the voice of a grumpy man, like he had just woken up. He picked up.
Hello?
Say your name so I know you're Hojo, you asshole. It would be terrible if I got it wrong. I made up my mind. I had all the initiative on my side. Here we go.
This is the Shishibe Okinomiya police station. Am I speaking to the Hojo residents?
I was changing my voice, but did he really think I sounded like an adult? Would he believe I was the police?
Oh, yes, this is Hojo. We currently have your daughter, Satoko Hojo, here with us. Huh? Satoko? What did that brat do?
He fell for it. I could tell by how tense he was that he didn't doubt my words.
I can explain the particulars once you have arrived here. Would you mind coming to the station right away? Right now? I already took a bath myself, so I really don't want to go out like this, though.
What? Huh?
He has his monthly one bath.
What? Okay, Keiichi has the same reaction as me. What? You don't want to come because you already took a bath?
Yes, right away. Right away? Jeez, man. What did Sadoko do? I'll explain once you're here. I will be waiting. Thank you for your assistance.
We'll be waiting.
1 second. I don't know where the police station is. Where am I even going?
You moron! What the hell? The Okinomiya police station? I don't know where it is either. Aren't you from around here? Why don't you know that? A greasy sweat came over my body. Eventually, just as I was about to choke, he spoke.
Ah, next to the fire station, right? That's pretty far.
Thank goodness. He remembered on his own for me. I didn't care where the police station was, so long as he left his house to get there.
Then we will be waiting here. Oh, wait. Who am I asking for once I get there? What is your name?
Please say Oishi, please say Oishi, please say Oishi. On top of that, he wanted to know my name? Just leave your goddamn house already!
Maibashi. Excuse me.
Nice save. That was close. I almost thoughtlessly told him my real name. I managed to change the last syllable of it, but I put the receiver down like I was running away. My fingers were trembling, and I was soaked with a tepid sweat. Or more like a tepid sweat. I wasn't just nervous about the phone call. With that call,
Silly.
everything had finally been put into motion. I left the school. It was locked before, but it was easy enough to open from the inside. But I couldn't lock it again after I left. In terms of being thorough, I wanted to lock it, but I couldn't waste time going back to the teacher's lounge and looking for the key. I needed to rush back as fast as I could and ambush him. I zoomed back to the scene on my bike. If Sadako's uncle had got out of town before I got there, everything would be over. He'd learned there was no one at the station in Mayabashi. Unless there was. And things would get pretty messed up. As I returned at full speed, I passed a family wearing yukatas. They must have been on their way to the festival. Many people in Hinamizawa knew my face, though I didn't know theirs. Even just passing by them like this made me uneasy. But I didn't generally come around here, so those living in the area might not have known much about me. That didn't matter right now. I needed to get back as fast as possible, to control my breathing, and to ambush the man. I hid my bike in a thicket, and picked up Satoshi's bat, which I just left hidden in the shade.
Jade Vermintide 2?
Yes. When are they gonna add Satoshi's bat as a weapon for Shade and Vermintide 2? And then I held my breath, waiting to seize someone.
Once they finally make the volley crossbow usable, yeah.
How would a melee weapon do that?
I wondered if he still hadn't gone there. Or maybe he went right out after the phone call and passed by here already? I couldn't figure out which it was, and was set upon by an indescribable impatience. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Even if he came here already, he passed by here on the way back, right? The end result would be the same. It wouldn't change the fact that he'd die. He'd probably be coming on his motorcycle. How would I stop him then? I figured it would be best not to think too hard and just hit him as he passed, or beat him out of his seat. The path was made of pebbles. If I hit him as hard as he could and made him lose his balance, he wouldn't be able to help falling. And then, the chorus of the Higurashi stopped. The sound of a bike approached from far away. Woo! Here we go, boys! I couldn't tell what sort of motorcycle it was from its sound, but I'd seen it parked before, so I'd know. It was getting rapidly closer. It was almost here. If he just went a little further, he'd cross into that thicket and appear in front of me. I'd take a moment to make sure it was him, and then, when I had, I'd put my plan into action. The motorcycle appeared. A few easily identifiable characteristics told me it was Sadako's uncle's bike without a doubt. Was it really him? Was it really Sadako's uncle? I wasn't making a mistake, was I? I looked at its characteristics again. Its color, shape, and most of all, the man's clothes and face. Those last feelings of hesitation, I did away with them. Sadako, now, your Nini will end it, okay? Closer, closer. The bike came closer. Let's go. Satoshi! What?! What?! Yeah. Whoosh! I jumped out of the thicket. I used my shoulder to basically tackle the uncle on the bike with all my might. He gave a dumb shout and his bike completely lost its balance. Finally, it fell, the bike scattering clouds of sand, and after spinning, it stopped. Her uncle, tossed to the ground, didn't understand what had just happened, and groaned for a few moments, crouched on the ground. My breathing started to become ragged. No, I couldn't have this emotion. Some weird secretion crossed through my brain and nearly made me hallucinate. Her uncle was groaning. Now was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What was I doing? All the sounds in the world cut off. My mental chaos from a moment ago withdrew like a lie, and I could feel the temperature of my head rapidly cooling down. The tension in my muscles all went away like the strings they'd been attached to had been cut, and I let my hands dangle at my sides. We're going with the puppet metaphor again. It wasn't quite like exhaustion. Have you calmed down now? Keiichi Maibara. Do you need to remember again why things got to this point today? Scrape. Scrape. I stepped over the pebbled path, taking one step, another step, then another towards Sadako's uncle. The more I walked, the more my breathing calmed. The more I walked, the more I felt my body cooling, calming, chilling with frost. Yes. At this moment, this guy had lost permission to live. I had just rescinded
Casey's like, you have my permission to die.
So he mustn't stay in this world any longer. If he lived any longer, if Sadako's misfortune continued, it would be my responsibility for having allowed him to live. I could feel the cooling substance going through my whole body, even down to my capillaries. Her uncle was at my feet now, still on the ground like an idiot. I smiled coldly at how ridiculous he looked.
That hurt.
That's all it took? For it to hurt? Sadako's heart hurt much more. And now, you're gonna feel that. And, with your life, I'll make up for her pain. I erased all unnecessary information from my mind. I prioritized the murder of this man. Execute, execute, execute! Wham! Utterly calmly, I delivered my first strike to the back of his head. I wanted to get at the most effective spot. At least during that first moment I'd have to attack him, when he was at his most defenseless.
Ah!
And if he was hit in the head, he'd cover his head. It was a defensive reaction all humans made, like machines. He used both hands to cover his head, so he couldn't pick himself up off the heap he was in on the ground. Like pounding a caterpillar into the dirt, I hit him over and over. If he covered his head, I'd hit him in the side. If he covered his body, I'd go for his head. If he rolled over, I'd strike his feet, his knees, his elbows. I didn't care where anymore. Just by delivering one blow after another, I induced panic in him. I retained my overwhelming advantage, but I hadn't done nearly enough to deliver a fatal wound.
I'm not gonna scream. It's fucking like 4 a.m.
Okay, fair enough.
That's reasonable.
Her uncle skillfully pulled himself up off the ground and started to run like a fleeing rabbit. It wasn't a judgment he'd made after seeing my face and deciding whether to fight me. Right now, he was fleeing by instinct. He was just trying to escape from the threat that presented itself. A counterattack from the more physically capable uncle was what I was most concerned about. He may have run, but it wasn't all that unlucky. All the odds were in my favor. The uncle didn't run away towards
Hunger Games
people.
reference.
The uncle didn't run off towards people, but off the path and into the woods. Is he gonna run into the trap from way earlier in the chapter? Please. Please. Fingers crossed. How pleasant that he would run in a direction where nobody else was. He was fleeing into strange geography, like a rat that instinctively runs into tight spots over and over. Yes, he was no longer human. He was a rat. The blood vessels in my legs expanded, and my total oxygen supply increased. I lowered myself to gain the most explosive velocity I could. Without breathing, I became a wind-like shadow, and dashed. I crossed thickets, crossed dead tree branches underfoot, and dove through the woods like a bullet. He ran so cowardly, arms flailing as he went. After catching up to him, I didn't need so much as a blink of an eye to strike him again. My senses, my mind, and my body were all sharpened purely to kill this man. This was the first time I felt like this. Well, this was the first experience I'd ever had killing someone. It felt natural to continue to do this for the first time. And that meant I had this much talent for killing. Or perhaps the act of killing was so simple that anyone could do it. I didn't struggle or grow tired at all at chasing the clumsily fleeing uncle. No matter how
I like that.
Hmm?
Like, this arc started off with Keishi almost burning his house down trying to make ramen, and now we're here. I like this.
This is great. I'm having a wonderful time.
This has actually probably been my favorite chapter so far.
I mean, that's how Ryu Kishi novels go, based on what I've experienced. They just get better every chapter. No matter how much he ran, it was like trying to get away from his own shadow. He couldn't get away from me. Interesting that he says that, considering earlier he was describing the Mr. Oyashiro-sama at his back as a shadow. Anyway, I could easily aim at his back, his shoulder, and his head even from this unnatural stance. Each time I struck him, he wailed in pain and begged pitifully for forgiveness, but it didn't disturb my mind. I was neither excited nor plagued by hesitation like before. I felt sharp. I felt like a carnivore. Of course, so did the uncle, who was trying to run away because he didn't want to die. He didn't want to be eaten, like a herbivore running with all its might, trying to get away. Despite all the attacks, despite all the hits, he kept on fleeing without even staggering.
You said herb. That's good.
Maybe I should have taken the Smiter perk. And despite the bad footing in the forest, he impressively never tripped over anything. But there was no need to admire that fact. It was simply proof that he was no more than an animal. If he was chased, he would run. If he was going to be killed, he would run. He bared his fangs at the weak, but couldn't oppose the strong whatsoever. He was lowly, vulgar, a diminutive animal. Such a puny little creature had harmed Sadako. Scar after scar to her body and mind, deep wounds that might not ever go away as long as she lived.
Help! I'm still not gonna scream.
It's fine. Oh. I can do this one if you don't want to scream. My cold and
That'll be
calm
good on
emotion.
YouTube, I bet.
Yes, it will.
That'll be great on YouTube, but it was funny for it just to get cut off halfway through.
I don't understand why it's getting cut off. I disabled all forms of noise suppression. My cold and calm emotions suddenly turned into bestial ones. My personality changed into something specialized for murder, purely to devour the diminutive animal before me.
E.
Fair enough.
E.
The uncle gave a puny
letter
little
E.
shriek. The letter E covered his head and ran. I'm impressed by how much you can run. Fine, as much as you like. I will be your death. I will choose the moment at my leisure. Your legs will hurt. Your lungs will feel about to burst. Your head will hurt from the lack of oxygen. If you feel the pain has become worse than death, then by all means, stop any time. Without turning back, suffocating on his terror of the approaching death, he just ran shamefully onward. He ran, but was chased, his head bashed with the metal bat, sweat and drool flying everywhere, blood clinging to him. From his mouth came the sounds of coarse, irregular breathing, and high-pitched screaming that verged on crying. And pleas for forgiveness to someone, I didn't know who. Each and every second was a second of atonement that I granted him. Now run. Then fall, moan, and die. Where did you even crawl out of, anyway? You were never here before. If you were never here, you should have never showed up. If you never showed up, our lives would still be fun and enjoyable. We would
Never should have come here.
Never should have come here. We would have gone to today's festival, waited for each other, and gone to the shrine laughing. We would have been playing amongst the stalls right now. We'd been browsing the strange food stalls you only saw at festivals, trying to get prizes from goldfish scooping, ring throwing, or target practice. Neon would surely make it into a competition, and we, as a club, would have a grand time. And everyone would have been cheering for Rika-chan's dedication dance, and everyone would say how fun it was, and it would give us energy for days to come. Fun, enjoyable, and funny. Warm times spent with friends. And that would have happened, but it didn't, and now it was all smashed to pieces. There was no doubt that would be what the world was like if you had never showed up. You were the obstacle, the mistake, the heresy in that world. But I would correct that mistake now. I would erase you and make it so that this last week had never happened. Tonight was the Watanagashi Festival. The holy night where taking just one life was permitted in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Looks like the Higurashi stopped crying at some point. When the Higurashi cried, everything would end. That's a screenshot for sure. And the Higurashi silenced. Lowly one, the hour of atonement is at an end. The Higurashi have stopped their crying. Thus, it is the end. The end, the end, end! You don't have to run away anymore. Die with those dirty brains of yours smashed everywhere. Go! Lightning and thunder struck like an explosion. It was so loud, it shook the ground and I smelled gunpowder. The response I got this time was clearly different from the one before. The metal bat crunched into the crown of his head, like it was the top of his head had caved in. The bat felt like it was biting him. And this was how I earned the title of Bloke Basher. It had been the final killing attack that visited him, when I didn't overlook the opening he left as his knees gave out under him. I remained alert for a few moments, then thud, thud, he planted both knees into the ground, and then fell forwards, burying his head in the ground. Now Keiichi, don't forget to double tap. I've been holding back my ragged breathing, but now it all came out of me like a dam bursting. He loves that metaphor. My head was dizzy.
He does love construction, it's so cool.
Yeah,
He loves the
construction's
dam.
awesome.
Hinamizawa Dam Project.
My head was dizzy and light, and unable to maintain my balance, I leaned against a nearby tree. The uncle didn't try to guard his head any longer. After a disgusting sort of spasm, he stopped moving. Did I get him? Did I get him for sure? I fought back my exhausted urge to fall over where I stood, and drew toward him, carefully, bat still at the ready. It was possible he was faking it, and trying to wait it out. Should I check for a pulse? I realized right away, though, how unnecessary that would be. If I thought he might be faking it, then I would just have to keep pummeling him until I was satisfied. Okay, good, he is double tapping. I fought back my ragged breathing again, and then I swung my bat far above, and brought it down. Clunk. His body leaped like a bow, but he didn't try and cover his head. Then, once again, I aimed for his head, and swung. His reaction was the same this time. After spending a few moments making his head into mochi, the hits gradually started to feel different. I started to spray a filthy, dark red liquid. I'm just gonna screenshot this and I'm gonna crop out everything except mochi. Anyway, the hits gradually started to feel different, and it started to spray a filthy, dark red liquid everywhere. That was enough. It was definite now. I had absolutely killed him. There was no sense of accomplishment, nor one of regret. I didn't feel any anger towards Sadako's uncle, nor pity towards Sadako herself. Instead, right now, I was feeling like my heart had been stolen by the downpour. It had begun to rain at some point, and how comfortable it felt. The rainwater drenched my body and dripped down to the ground. The excitement within me faded as the rain washed away the grime. In exchange, my shoes were so wet they made splashing sounds. And despite abusing Satoshi's bat like that, it wasn't bent very much. There were a few dents in it, probably from hitting the man, but nothing that would make it seem different from before. Instead, it had been stained with black, with red, with mud and blood. But that itself would be evidence. The one piece of evidence needed to prove that my delusions hadn't just been daydreams, and that I ended Sadako's uncle for all eternity. Alright, Keiichi. Calm your mind. The time for passion is over. Now is the time to be cold as ice. I needed to bury the body. But where was I? I'd simply followed the man as far as he ran into the darkness. I couldn't take a guess as to how far we'd run. It was already pitch black around us, and the only light I had to go on was the very faint lights on the road a little further down.
Pitch Black, starring Vin Diesel.
True. It was so dark out. I hadn't noticed the darkness until just now. My vision was so good, I could see the man's ugly hairline. I could have counted the pores in his head. It was only now that I realized how much crazy strength I had mustered at that moment. I went over to the streetlight. I looked up and down the road, desperately trying to figure out where I was.
This is...
Oh no. This was the one road connecting Hinamizawa to the town. Oh! Wait, hold up! Oh! Hey, you know what else happened around this area? Next to the one road connecting Hinamizawa to the town?
Nothing.
Hey, Tobitake.
Anyway, we were...
Tomatake slipping on a banana peel.
Yeah, maybe we'll actually get to witness
Yeah.
it this time. That'd be great. We were unbelievably far away from Sadaka's house. I'd love to see him slip on a banana peel. That would be great. Had the two of us really run so far a distance? My surprise at that was accompanied by knowledge of the miraculous fact that despite running so far and making so much noise, we hadn't come across anybody at all. So Wallcraft, I'm sure you can feel this already, but every time I read the word miracle, I'm glaring at you a little bit. Anyway. And
Why?
Oh, how
GM.
sweet.
But GM's not here right now, so it's only you.
A shame.
There was a long way between here and the ambush location where I dug the hole. There was no way I could carry the body that far. Wait, aside from that, the bike the man took here was still lying in the middle of that path. That would be an issue. The police could tell whose motorcycle it was by looking at its license plate. And they wouldn't just leave it at that. Thankfully, the corpse was in a dark forest. In terms of urgency, dealing with the bike would come first. And I wanted to get the shovel back from where I'd left it next to the hole. I shouldn't drag the body there. I would have to deal with it right here. Fortunately, the ground was like mud from the downpour, and was more sludgy here than where I was before. That's not as good of a thing as you might think it is, Keiichi. I might be able to dig a grave quickly here. Of course, my bicycle was still over where I left it, too. It still wasn't over. Homicide had only been half my goal. The other half would be just as important as the first. I would completely hide the body, not allowing a beginning to happen. I would erase the man like he never existed, and regain the peaceful times we had before. I bent my head backwards, and calmed my mind even further. The big water droplets stuck to my brow mercilessly. They were actually quite comfortable, and for a while, I let my desire have its way. After confirming that I was sharp again, I started running through the rain. The motorcycle was in the grass at the roadside. Considering how it looked, pelted with rain and covered in mud, it actually seemed like it had been lying there for a very long time. The plan was to drop the motorcycle into the swamp. Whoops. The swamp was a bit of a walk from here. I lifted the bike up. I didn't think it would be so heavy. I was a little surprised. But once I had it upright, it was fairly easy to roll it along. Still, pushing this thing all the way to the swamp was really not something I wanted to do. I could no longer ignore my exhaustion, and it warned me numerous times of how far away the swamp was. This motorcycle, I wonder if I could ride it well enough. Once I got it going, it would be basically the same as a bicycle.
I feel like that's not a good idea, Keiichi.
No. Wouldn't it get me to the swamp quickly? A plan suggested by my exhaustion. The anxiety at getting on a motorcycle for the first time withdrew. I turned the key, and then you just kick this pedal, right? Yeah. Yeah!
Uh-oh.
Vroom. It's on. And then I grip the handlebars. First the right, then the left.
Wah!
Maybe I twisted them too much. The bike lurched and did a wheelie like an angry horse. I lost it.
It did a wheelie like an angry horse, you know.
I can
Horses
kind
do
of
wheelies.
see.
Metaphor.
No, I can kind of see what he's saying. Like,
I know what he means, but
it is
What he
a funny
means, but that's like
metaphor.
so stupid.
I lost it for a second, but it was a problem of just how much torque to apply. Let's try that again. This time, slowly, gently. That time it went well. It was strange to be on a two-wheeled vehicle that would go even if I didn't pedal. Very odd, but I got used to it quickly. Mian once told me you could get a scooter license within a day, and she was clearly right. This was pretty easy.
What?
I needed to throw the...
easier than making stir fry.
Apparently. I needed to throw the metal bat into the swamp, too. But I didn't know how I would pack the bat onto the motorcycle. Without much other choice, I stuffed it into the back of my shirt, feeling like a ninja carrying a katana. If I put the tip down the seat of my pants and hunched over, it wouldn't fall out. I got back on the bike and this time, got going without any difficulty. I carefully pressed the button labeled light.
So he was able to easily identify a motorcycle earlier.
Yeah.
So he's just driving around on the motorcycle of the guy he just murdered. Is that not suspicious to him?
Well, he's in a dark forest, so as long as he doesn't like the road, it's probably fine. Anyway. I mean, is it more suspicious? I mean, the light is a problem, yes. But is it really more suspicious than lugging around the motorcycle of the man you just murdered?
Well, I was just thinking that, like, driving around on it is very suspicious if anyone recognized it. Couldn't he theoretically bury it along the body?
Well, he can't bury the body in the same spot anymore. Also, since it's raining, he's actually probably going to have quite a lot of trouble burying the body. I don't know if you've ever seen true crime stuff, but mud is a bit of a problem. Anyway.
Maybe you should voice Takano instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the real white woman here.
You give me, like, you definitely got the white woman vibes.
No, Takano is my sensei. I am not Takano. Anyway, I carefully pressed the button labeled light, and a rather strong light came on, illuminating the way forward. She really is the most relatable character. I probably really shouldn't have turned it on, but I didn't have any way of seeing at this point, and I had zero confidence I could ride through this darkness. As the rain came down on me, I maintained a precarious balance and inched my way towards the swamp. Also, this time it might not actually be the worst idea, since he just used all of his energy on, you know, murder. So, there is that. Along the way,
fair, I guess.
Along the way, I ran across a few people who seemed to be returning from the festival. But none of them had any interest in me. They were all either soaked with rain and hurrying on their ways home, or had their umbrellas low and their heads down. Yesterday I might have been wary of even these passerby, but right now it didn't seem to be much cause for concern. In fact, it would probably be less suspicious to be riding out in the open like this instead of sneaking around. More and more, though, I started to think of that idea as naive, brought on by my exhausted state. I climbed the steep hill. On a bike, the hill would have put me out of breath, but I just had to accelerate a little bit to climb the entire thing. Motorcycles sure are convenient. For a moment, its lights illuminated a sign before I passed by it. Onigafuchi Swamp. Good children do not play around here. Still, it wasn't like the way to the swamp was cordoned off by a metal fence or anything. Parents and teachers would get mad at you if you found out you were playing on the swamp, but some of the bad kids in my class apparently snuck out there sometimes to see the giant crayfish in the place. They talked before about how they'd go to the candy shop and buy some pickled squid, and just tie it to a fishing line and throw it, and all the crayfish would come running. Once I got up to the bank, there was a tiny ritual shrine, a traditional rope on one of the trees. And, as it swallowed the downpour whole, the blackened swamp had waited for me. If I slammed the accelerator from the cliff-like stop I was on now, the thing would fly straight into the middle of the swamp. I had to be careful not to fall in with it. If I drowned and disappeared, man, what a stupid ghost story that would be. On the night of Watanagashi, Sadako's uncle's corpse was found in a thicket by the road leading to town, and Keiichi Maebara went missing. People would whisper that I'd been demoned away. The 5th year's curse would be a half-baked one. I got off the bike and twisted the accelerator as hard as I could. I just let go when it seemed like it would drag me forward. The bike shot off the cliff and was swallowed down into the swamp, leaving a far fainter splash than I'd imagined. Its surface was being pummeled by the downpour, and the muddy, filthy water was flowing into it. I couldn't even make out the motorbike I'd just thrown in there. It was pretty heavy, after all. It would be quickly engulfed by the soft mud at the bottom of the swamp, and it would be pulled deeper and deeper until it reached hell itself. I felt no reluctance whatsoever in throwing the man's motorbike down to the land of demons, but I did have a tinge of regret about Satoshi's bat. I washed the bat with muddy water, and the gore sticking to it came off easily. I had sort of shared today's events with Satoshi, so I wanted to give it a quiet place to stay. That's how I felt. I started to feel more like returning it to the locker from before, so that I could continue to keep watch over Sadako.
Satoshi, I misunderstood you.
Take a shot.
Satoshi listened quietly, without nodding. Oh yeah, that would be a shot, but of water. Here, I'll take a shot of water. Water. Mmm, yummy. Delicious. I love
Many
not
are
doing
saying
illicit substances. I am
Alcohol isn't illicit anymore, you're not in the 70s.
Shut up.
70s?
I am absolutely
Something, I don't know.
I am absolutely convinced now. You were the one who beat your aunt to death last year and saved Sadako. I always scorned you and called you a coward who ran away. But I was wrong. To the rest of the world, some deviant was behind that incident. But I know that it was something you did for her. And then you disappeared. You finally got back that piece and lost it within days. So I swear to you that I will live life to the fullest from now on. Live it enough for the both of us. I will live on through this week, this day. I will live on as though this week, this day, never happened. But I will never forget this short time we shared together for as long as I live. I
For
didn't
next
know...
2 days, in case you live.
Probably. I didn't know what expression Satoshi made as he listened. But as someone who had protected the same girl, I felt he had smiled and given me his blessing. And then, my hand moved of its own accord, and the bat I had hesitated to throw away left my hands and flew through the air. It traveled its parabolic path, spinning all the while, and the swamp absorbed it without a sound. There weren't even any ripples when it hit the surface. That surface was tempestuous because of the downpour, and the bat was long gone. For a moment, I regretted having thrown it, but I realized that might have been what Satoshi had wanted.
You're right. I still can't let myself give in to emotion just yet.
I would return for the shovel, get on my bike, dig a hole to hide the body, and bury it. It seemed like a simple sequence of events, but I felt extremely exhausted, and I had to do it all tonight. Satoshi left me with only the advice I needed to finish this up soon. Then fell silent for eternity, and disappeared at the bottom of the demon's abyss. This is great. This is wonderful. I returned to the path I had ambushed her uncle on. My bike was hidden, sleeping in the brush. I stood it back up. My whole body felt heavy, but I needed to finish by the end of the day, even if I had to whip myself to do it. Oh yeah, do you guys remember in Chapter 1 when it ended up being, or in Chapter 2, when it was revealed that he had a bike, and it just was never mentioned in Chapter 1? That was great.
Oh, that's the timeline difference.
I don't
He
think
has a
that's
bike
the,
in some timelines.
I don't think that's the timeline difference. My whole body felt heavy, but I needed to finish by the end of the day, even if I had to whip myself to do it. Oh, I forgot something. I didn't just come here for my bike. The shovel was here too. Not good.
By
I was
chapter
zoning
4,
out.
he'll have a scooter.
True. He's gonna upgrade. Every once in a while,
It only takes a day.
every once in a while, if I let my guard down, my vision would go almost black. Or almost go black. Pull yourself together, Keiichi Maibara. It's still not over. I went into the grove of trees. I looked for the hole in which I had hidden the shovel. Unfortunately, I had hidden it deep in the forest, not wanting it to be seen, and now everything was black in the night, and I couldn't see anything anymore. I reawakened my fading consciousness, and realized just how big this annoyance really was. Is this a new track?
Wait. You can't be serious.
The sweat the rain washed away before came back up to my skin. Deep, deep in the forest, where the streetlights could never reach. The fact that it would be so pitch black
When the streetlights cry.
had been completely uncalculated. Actually, I think this has come up before, hasn't it? With this much darkness, even if I had been able to kill him right away like I'd planned, I didn't know if I still could have buried him without a problem. What should I do? I simply couldn't find the shovel tonight. If I forced myself to go deep into the forest, I'd lose even my sense of direction and might actually get lost in there. That might have been an exaggeration, but it was fully possible I'd trip over a tree root and sprain a muscle. Oh, right. My house's storage room. There was another shovel there. The fold-up kind. Couldn't I go back to the house, get the shovel, and give up on finding the shovel tonight? It's not as though the name Maibara is written on the shovel. But it seemed like an unusual item from an import variety store made in another country, so I didn't want to leave that shovel here. But in this darkness, I couldn't do anything. I should give up and go back to the storage room. And there was an electric lantern in there. If I used that for light, I could look for it. But it was so extremely dark. Could I light the way with just the lantern? The light of the lantern in this dark night. I couldn't discard the possibility of it drawing eyes. And I doubted if I could find the shovel with the lantern's feeble light. Besides, I'd left the body there for a pretty long time already. My sense of fear, dulled through excessive exhaustion, finally reared its ugly head. Anyway, for now, the most important thing was to hide the body. This is all falling apart very fast. A shovel being found wouldn't be a big deal, but a corpse? If they found that, I'd share the same fate as Satoshi. First, I'd go back to the storage room at home. Then I'd get the lantern. Now that it's gotten this dark, I might still need light to dig a hole for the body too. And I'd get the other shovel. Then I'd deal with the body first thing. Once that was done, I'd come back here, find the shovel, and bring it back. I had to. Had to do at least that much. But I was so tired. But complaining was getting me nowhere. If I started getting complacent now, everything will have been for naught. At some point, I had sat down. I gritted my teeth and endured, lifting my heavy hips. The night was young. Of all the nights I'd experienced, none had ever been this long. When would it all end? The night was young. Did you know that Ryukishi likes to repeat himself?
The night really
No.
was young.
The night was young. The night was young, and the lights at home were dazzlingly bright. Suddenly, they reminded me of how hungry I was. I checked the clock, and saw that it was almost 7. I thought for sure it was 2 or 3 in the morning already. Well, yeah, you've been, like, running around all night committing murder. Of course you're fucking exhausted. I was surprised at how messed up my biological clock had gotten, just from this one night. Oh yeah, important detail, so... he looked at a clock and he was able to tell the time. That means it's not a dream. Good to know.
Could still be a hallucination.
True. Wait. Do the same rules apply for dreams and hallucinations? Anyway. Also, I've always thought that was bullshit because I've always been able to read text in my dreams perfectly fine. Anyway. There was a warm light coming from the curtains in the living room window. The worlds between here and what was beyond those curtains were so different. If only that man hadn't showed up, I would have been in that light. I'd still be excited from the festival, and I'd be talking to my parents about how much fun I'd had with all my friends. And then, even though they made a hot meal for me, I would have eaten way too much at the stalls, barely eaten any of it, and gone back to my room. No doubt I'd crawl into my futon and easily let myself fall asleep. But right now, I was completely different. There wasn't a single ember of warmth from those weak streetlights. Right now, I was unconnected to any time spent with my family, and there was neither warm food, nor the time to allow myself to sleep. My body exposed to the cold rain, I knew that I simply had to spur myself on to accomplish what I must. I realized how timid how cowardly I was becoming. For what purpose did I need to kill someone so badly that it was worth feeling this terrible? I'd lost sight of that purpose. I selected the fastest, most fundamental way of saving Sadako, and executed it without hesitation.
Executed?
Yes, executed, because that man was dead. He was gone. He would never, ever hurt Sadako again. Okay, so Ryukishi said that 3 times in a row, and Keiichi's always wrong. So let's do the math here.
His ghost is gonna come back to beat Sadako up.
We all thought frantically for days on end about Sadako's problem, and finally, with no options, we gave up. And I had solved it in one night. By myself, without anyone's help. Right about now, Sadako would be making dinner for her uncle, despite not knowing when he'd return, and she might be spending the night trembling in fear of whether he'd yell at her over how it tasted. But her uncle wouldn't come home. She wouldn't have to fear his wrath, nor let him make her feel sad. I see. I did it. I successfully saved Sadako. All I'd been thinking about for a long time was killing that man. And I'd forgotten the feeling that it was actually all to save her.
I did.
I did something good. That's right. I did something good, didn't I? I felt hot tears coming from my eyes. And that's when I first realized that the exhaustion I'd been feeling was actually guilt. The blade of guilt, for a while now, had just been scraping away with its tip, hurting my heart. It hurt so bad I couldn't stand it. It was throbbing painfully. It hurt so much, it was so painful that I cried. I cried tears of joy at saving Sadako. I didn't know why, really, anymore. I just cried. My tears fell and fell. As I stood there for a while, coming to terms with those warm tears, my heart was comforted a little. All right, Heiichi Maibara, that's enough. There's nothing to regret or feel ashamed about. Both my body and mind were thoroughly exhausted, and that was a fact. It was only natural that I couldn't feel anything. Please stop saying it was only natural. You're making me go crazy.
It was only natural to say. It was only natural.
It was only natural. It was only natural. It was only natural. It was even tomorrow.
It was partially artificial.
True. Even tomorrow. And the day after that. I might not be able to feel anything for a while. But there was one thing that was true. There was the indisputable fact that I had saved Sadako. One day, we would surely be rewarded. One day, I would be proud of how distressing an enterprise I had undertaken to get Sadako's smile back. And so I could wait for that day, I had to put the finishing touches on this night. If I left it undone, everything I'd accomplished today would be for naught. I looked back up at the sky, which didn't look like it would stop raining anytime soon. Then, I rubbed my eyes and summoned forth energy from my core again. How long did I plan on spacing out? This isn't the time for daydreaming. Someone could find that corpse at this very moment. That pessimistic thought was proof that the very natural emotion of fear had returned to me. As I allowed the fear to spur me onwards, I went to look for the other shovel and the lantern inside the storage room. It was fortunate. I remembered what it looked like around the streetlight the body was near. With how dark it was quite possible I wouldn't have been able to look for it either. I didn't realize that when I left the place, so the idea of memorizing the spot hadn't ever even crossed my mind. And that's why I had to call it fortunate that I managed to get back to the body like this. The corpse was now located in a big, muddy puddle. Half the thing had already sunk into the swamp-like pool of water. I only realized afterward, but there was an unused irrigation channel right nearby, clogged with fallen leaves and dirt, and there was rainwater flowing in from there. My shoes had been washed with water for a long time now, so without any hesitation, I stepped into the puddle. Luckily, the whole muddy stream washed it all away. I couldn't leave any slight traces, like bloodstains. The rain was like a blessing from heaven. I checked around me, paying very close attention, then turned off the lantern. It became pitch black, but my eyes got used to the darkness in a few moments. What's up?
Sorry, pitch black again. Thinking of the same stupid
Maybe
joke I made
Ryukishi is just a huge Riddick fan.
Maybe.
True.
It became pitch black, but my eyes got used to the darkness in a few moments. And once I managed to reach the streetlight on the other side, I was able to make out even faint lights. I stuck the shovel into the puddle right next to the corpse. The ground was even looser here than I thought, and the shovel's tip easily slid inside it. I had to hurry and dig. If I took too much time, I might lose my energy and strength again. It felt almost like digging a hole in the sand at the beach. It was easy to dig, but no matter what, the muddy water kept flowing in, covering the hole. The digging wasn't going as well as I'd hoped. I dug and the water would go in, so I couldn't get a sense of how deep it was. The only way for me to measure it was to bury my own foot in the mud. And digging is fine. It's alright. Don't be disheartened. Dig, dig, dig! Occasionally a car would come by on the road, and I'd hurry to hide myself in the trees. Everyone was only passing through. They wouldn't have their eyes peeled in this kind of darkness. I understood it logically, but I still couldn't help but hide. What I was really scared of wasn't quite that one of those cars would coincidentally happen to witness me here. It was the distance I could spot cars from was gradually getting shorter. At first, I noticed the splashing sounds from really far away as cars drove through them. I started noticing them less and less, and with the car that just passed by, I didn't notice it until its headlights were upon me. I felt my senses growing duller by the second. If someone were to take a peek in secret as I was burying the body at the worst possible time, maybe I wouldn't even notice. The moment I thought that, I took a good look all around me. I roused all my half-asleep senses and searched for signs of presence nearby. What if I found out someone was spying on me from the trees?
Take a shot.
A carnivorous feeling snarled at me, glaring, like how I glare at Wallcroft whenever the word miracle shows up. If there was, then I would dig another hole. I'd come this far already. In order to achieve perfection, I didn't care how much more I had to pay. I didn't know what kind of face I was making at the time, but it was definitely a fervently glaring one. My five senses reached the conclusion that nobody was present. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief. How long had I been digging this mud out of here? It was deep enough for it to go up to my knees. Maybe this was enough. Maybe I'd throw the corpse in as a test. I swallow, getting my breathing under control. Despite how much I'd beaten him, I was afraid of touching the corpse. So instead, I dragged it by the feet to the hole. It took more than just a waggle and a tug to do it. But of course it did. Considering this man's weight was easily 80 kilograms. I rallied all my strength and dragged him. At this point, my groundless fears that he might suddenly start moving again had vanished long ago. His body fit perfectly into the muddy hole. It was more than deep enough. Alright, let's bury him. Quickly, quickly, quickly. If I did a perfect job of burying it here, everything would be over. I would hide it in the hole, and none of this would have ever happened. When I realized I had only a little farther to go to finish everything, I was racked with pointless anxiety, like I was in a race against time. It was like I was absorbed in a delusion, that if I didn't bury the body quickly, it might come back to life. In any case, in a great rush, I poured mud and dirt into the hole. If I didn't work efficiently, someone might find me here. Until now, I figured if someone saw, I'd just kill them, but not anymore. I was arrested with such absolute fear that if someone saw me, it would all be over. As I finished the work off, it was a total mess. Splish splash, splish splash. I drew the surface of the shovel across the ground, trying to make it flat. I was completely covered in mud at that point. The rain washed the mud off my body, but not off my now blackened clothing. My body and mind were caked with panic, with rain and sweat and mud. My shoulders heaving, I threw down the shovel and sat down in the mud. I was so exhausted that I wanted to lie down right here and sleep. It was over. This time. For real. It was over. The man was now in the bottom of the wet dirt. Right this moment, there were traces that this place had been dug up, but the rain and flowing muddy water would completely cover it all within moments. Yes, it was over. I like how there's happy music playing here.
I did it! I did it! I did it, you motherfucker!
Yeah! We did it! Let's go!
Yippee!
And then I fell over backwards, face up in the mud. Raindrops pelted my face without mercy, but I didn't care. I should have screenshotted this. I'm gonna screenshot that now. After staying there for a while, resting my mind, I got up again. It was over. So let's go home. You already buried the whole thing. So now it's like it's never happened. It never happened, so there's no reason for me to stay out here and get rained on.
Nothing ever happened.
I wobbled to my feet. I wouldn't use the shovel anymore. I considered disassembling it, but I didn't have the strength of my absolute exhaustion. I didn't really need to take it apart anyway. Dragging the shovel behind me, I headed towards the light. I stood up my bike. It had been laying in the grass by the road. I didn't know how I was going to get the still assembled shovel into the front basket. I put the shovel down down the back of my shirt, like I'd done with the baseball bat. Unlike the bat, the corner of it was on my back, making it very painful. Plus, if I relaxed my posture even a little, it would fall out behind me. That sounds uncomfortable. I ended up having to carry the shovel in my left hand and ride my bike using only my right hand. Not only was I in a state of total exhaustion, this was a downpour. one hand on the handlebars. I was swaying to and fro like a drunk, but I didn't care. Even swaying like this, I got a little closer to home every time I pedaled. I saw two lights swaying slowly in front of me. A car was approaching. Oh no, I need to get out of the way. From far away in the shadows of the darkness, a car appeared. Its dazzling lights washed over me. The driver made a short honk of the horn to inform me I was in the middle of the road. I have to get out of the way. I kept telling myself that. But not only was I riding one-handed, I was exhausted, so I couldn't do anything. Wobble, 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 wobble. I meandered about, not going to the right or the left. The driver decided to swerve out of the way right in front of me, and without lowering its speed much, steadily came towards me. Its outline grew larger in my vision, and telling myself again that I really needed to get out of the way, I jerked the handlebars in one direction, then lost my balance and fell over, bike and all. My whole body splayed out, and one foot got caught in the bike. This was seriously bad. My drowsiness quickly vanished, and just as a cold sweat broke out on my skin, the driver recklessly spun the wheel to the left, made a counterclockwise U-turn, and came up right to me and stopped. The driver's seat door opened, and the driver came out. You idiot! What are you doing here? I was pretty sure someone would yell at me like that.
Oh my. Look who it is.
I can say the same thing to you, girly pop. Hello, Takano-sensei. It was a woman's voice, and one I knew. Hey, what are you doing out here? I lifted my face off the ground and looked at her.
Takano-san.
Good evening. The moon is very pretty tonight, my Barakun.
It was raining far too hard to see the moon. Takano-san unfolded an umbrella and smiled as she spoke. That smile was, for some reason, uncanny, like she'd seen right through me. Out of all the people I could have met, I got this sudden feeling that this was the one I wanted to see the least. Okay, rude.
Are you sure, though?
It's not even true.
What are you doing out so late? And you're soaked and covered in mud, and no umbrella either. What is that? A shovel?
Takano, what are you doing out so late, huh? What kind of activities are you getting up to tonight? She had come here via car. She wouldn't have known what I was just doing. And yet, she smiled, as though she knew everything. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. I feel like I probably shouldn't put Takano in the thumbnail. This should be a surprise. Anyway. She always makes that mysterious looking smile, remember? Yeah, she's like the Mona Lisa. Don't ever say anything bad about her again, Keiichi. She's just a true crime girlie. Don't let her onto anything, lest you dig your own grave.
He doesn't know she's already dead. The rumors say you were playing baseball with a golf club. Is that what the shovel's for, too? You're using it as an umbrella?
I should tell a good lie here. If I could just do that,
Whoa, Keiichi.
things would work out.
He doesn't know how.
When I went with Rena to go digging for treasure at the dam, we forgot this there.
And you went to get it in this downpour?
When I left my house, I didn't think it would rain, so...
Oh, it's been raining for a while, though. You've been out for quite some time, haven't you?
Of course, the true crime girlie sees right through him.
Well, yes, I was kind of wandering around.
Even so, You came from that direction, didn't you? The dam is in the opposite direction, you know. Hehehehe.
I should tell a good lie.
Takano-san was clearly aware that something exceedingly abnormal was happening with me. And I, the reader, was exceedingly aware that Takano should not be out this late. It's her bedtime. And as she played her little word games, she was enjoying driving me into a corner. Maybe she had a vague guess, just from the situation, of what I'd been doing. Well, you did come up to her and start asking about the curse, about if the curse could kill, you know. Anyway, my timing really sucked to run into her, of all people, of all the times. At the very end, I could only be frustrated at my terrible luck. I'd done so much, and the end was literally right around the corner. Well, I've got good news for you, Keiichi. So why at the very, very end, did I run into her, of all people? What do you do, Keiichi Maibara? You're still holding something that could be a dangerous weapon. Will you silence Takano-san? Even if it would be simple to kill Takano-san, dealing with the car she'd come in afterward would be an issue. I couldn't drive a car. It was completely different from a motorbike. But even if the car was here, as long as there was no proof I killed her, yes. Yes, in tonight's downpour, without any prior planning, all by coincidence, a hit and run. As long as I didn't drop any handkerchiefs with my initials on them.
Foreshadowing is a literary device.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's like a classic murder mystery trope, isn't it? Oh man. Oh, that line is fucking hilarious. Thank you, Yukishi. That's probably funnier to me and Wallcraft than it is to you and Grumble. Anyway, as long as I didn't drop any handkerchiefs with my initials on them, they would never know I killed her. A black flame quietly smoldered and raged in the core of my body.
That's a scary look. Did I tease you too much?
Takano-san started to laugh by herself, then thankfully stopped talking about it. But the dark clouds in my mind didn't go away.
Leaving that aside, how long are you planning on crawling on the ground with your bike like that? Would you mind moving out of the way?
If I moved, she would leave. So I tried to get the bicycle up and out of the way, but then twisted my ankle in it and fell over. Ugh. Ow.
Oh, shit.
There was a sharp pain in the ankle I twisted. Yeah, no shit. This is nonsense. A sprained ankle? Now?
Oh my. Are you alright? Did you twist your ankle?
So funny thing, I actually did twist my ankle shortly before this session. Ryukishi knows everything. Oh my god, it's a reference! Anyway, Takano-san squats down and takes a good look at the ankle I keep rubbing.
Love squat.
Well, she is a nurse, so she compares it to my facial expression, apparently trying to gauge how bad the wound was.
Can you stand?
I didn't expect to, but I couldn't even stand up. It was all I could do to shamelessly wriggle on the ground like a caterpillar. A lot of caterpillar metaphors this chapter. Takano-san looked at her watch, then at her car, and after thinking for a moment, opened the passenger seat's door. And then gave me her shoulder to stand up with.
I'll take you home. I do feel bad, since it's almost like I hit you.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, is that a Higurashi? I wouldn't just leave you there. It's a good thing I'm a nice person. Hehe.
You don't even know how nice you are, Takano. Just giving a ride to the person who considered murdering you like 10 seconds ago.
I mean, that is pretty nice of her, considering she probably sees right through Keiichi. But anyway, nobody good has
It'll be more true crime for her to fangirl about later.
True. Nobody good has ever called themselves a nice person. But that would have been a terrible thing to say to somebody holding me up like this.
That sounds like a fucking Family Guy skit.
No, I mean, it's true.
Hey, Lloyd,
I mean,
remember that one time I gave a ride to a serial killer?
I mean, it's true. Nobody good does call themselves a nice person. I mean, look at what happened to Mr. Beast. Anyway, I took Takano's hands and sat down in the passenger seat. Takano-san went around the back, and then looked at my bike on the ground.
I don't suppose we could take the bicycle home tomorrow.
I could clearly tell from her face that she thought it would be a pain, since it would be heavy, and it would get her car dirty. But my bike has the name Maibara written on it. I couldn't leave it out here like this.
Well, can you somehow put it in the car? I sort of need it.
Trunk's already full. If I put it in the backseat, it'll get the seats dirty with mud. Well, given how you're already in here, it's already dirty, I suppose.
Yeah, Takano is gonna need to burn this car afterwards. Anyway, I turned back to the back seat and see someone's folding bicycle there already. It still looked big enough to fit my bike in there as well. My expression reflected my thoughts, and the exact thoughts seemed to get through to her.
Alright. I'll put it in here for you. I'll be really nice, but just for tonight, okay? Hehehe.
Takano-san continued with her mean jokes, but she hoisted my bike and loaded it into the back seat for me. The mean jokes were one thing, but couldn't she do something about that eerie smile of hers? And, even more importantly than the bike, I didn't want to leave the shovel here. The shovel could be directly connected to the buried body and to me.
Sorry to ask another favor, but could you get my shovel too?
Takano-san gave me a clearly dubious expression.
Your shovel? That's fine with me. Is it important?
The more I talk, the worse it gets for me. That's how I felt, so I didn't force myself to answer her. Man, if Takano wasn't disappearing tonight, like, this would be really bad for Keiichi.
It's a fucking
Maybe she doesn't
foldable
disappear
shovel,
tonight.
Anyway, eventually, outlasted by my silence, Takano-san gave a short shrug and sighed.
Alright, I understand. You need your shovel, right? You don't need to make such a mean face.
Takano-san brought over the shovel that was lying in the middle of the road. I clutched it like I'd never let go of it again. Takano-san watched me with a puzzled look.
Okay, let's be off. Maibara-kun, you live at the Maibara mansion, don't you?
By the way, I have a question. Has Takano ever been shown to ride a bike?
I was wondering if the thing about the bike in the back seat, like that was.
It's probably Tomitaka's, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, I'm already kind of dead set on my theory here, unless something big changes, but I still kind of want the swamp gas to be part of it, though. So, moving on.
Why does everyone call my house the Marmara Mansion?
The what?
Marmara Mansion.
Because it's actually a mansion. It must be nice to be rich.
As she spoke, Takano-san pulled the handbrake and stepped on the gas. After making a skillful U-turn on the shoulder of the road, she steadily increased in speed. From the rearview mirror, that accursed place seemed to melt into the darkness.
Ride?
Huh? Oh, sorry.
Huh? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you. What was that?
She was asking if a shrimp fried this rice.
Oh.
Takano-san suddenly tried to say something to me, but thoughtlessly, I didn't catch it. Looking ahead, Takano-san said the same thing one more time.
The body. How well was it buried?
I thought my heart might beat out of my chest, but I didn't let it show. But my lungs were squeezed tight, and I couldn't breathe.
What? What are you talking about?
When burying bodies in mountains like these, you have to bury it fairly deep because wild dogs will often smell the corpse and dig it out. Some human bone a wild dog brings back in its mouth leads to an incident being uncovered. The police head out to a stretch of mountains. It actually happens pretty often, you know? Hehe.
Pound, pound, clang, clang. Huge rusted bells, ominous bells, started tolling in my head. Had I buried it so deep I could say it absolutely wouldn't be found? The answer was no. I was in such a rush to bury him to get it over with that I couldn't deny having possibly buried it too close to the surface. No, wait. That's not... Wait, anyway. This woman, how does she know? She had just passed by here in her car by coincidence. And we ran into each other by coincidence. If she had been watching the entire thing from the trees, and once I left, she came back in her car, it didn't make logical sense. So then, why? Keiichi Maibara. That's it. You need to kill her. My entire body reawakened, and I could feel my pupils dilate. I couldn't possibly beat her to death with a shovel in such a small car. Then, I would use my hands and strangle her. But she was driving right now. If I strangled her, we might get into an accident. Then, suddenly, Takano-san turned and looked at me.
What, no witty retort?
For a moment, I was surprised. What was she talking about?
It would seem we're not a very good match.
Takano-san said, disappointed, returning her gaze ahead. I repeated the words she'd said, a few times in my head, and finally realized she'd meant it as an off-color joke. Ah, well, thank God. Sorry, thank Oyashiro-sama. I didn't know whether it was really a joke, but I wouldn't be able to fool her.
Takano, are you /J?
Takano, are you /J or /serious? I wouldn't be able to fool her.
Takano is /HJ.
In my head, I'm imagining like the Garfield meme, but with John Arbuckle as Keiichi and Garfield as Takano. Anyway, I wouldn't be able to fool her, no matter how many lies I told. Right now, with her driving the car like this, I couldn't kill her. I would have an even harder time doing it when we got back to my house. That moment we met, that had been my best chance. And to have missed it so easily, it hurt. After that, Takano-san didn't say a single word. The car was completely buried in an almost suffocating silence. What kind of woman had I run into?
A white girl, Keiichi.
A white woman. With everything that had happened today, I managed to pull it off. And at the very end of it all, I just had to go home and go back to sleep. What bad luck. As my sleepiness gradually overtook me, the anxiety I felt steadily started to matter less and less. Is this alright, Keiichi Maibata? You probably should not leave this woman alive. Right now, I'm tired. She stepped on the brakes, and I jerked against my seatbelt. That woke me up. I thought I must have fallen asleep by accident. I looked out the window, and there was a big building with faint lights on. It was really dark out, but I immediately knew it was my house. I knew immediately it was my house.
I'll go get your folks for you. Would you mind the place for a few moments while I'm gone? Hehehe.
Don't make fun of me, please. Besides, look, I'm fine now. I can walk by myself.
Oh my. You were in such pain before that you had to go to get me to carry you. Did you just want a pretty lady to be nice to you? Hehehe.
As Takano-san spoke, she left the car and opened her umbrella. The sound of falling raindrops was fierce, as always. I carefully reached down and rubbed the ankle I'd twisted. There was still some pain and a little weirdness, but they weren't that bad anymore. Rather than being happy about how light the wound was, I first regretted this whole thing. If I hadn't twisted my ankle, I could have still taken the option of killing Takano-san right then and there. To be honest,
He's tasted human blood and now he wants more.
I did think he would take the attitude of, I'm gonna kill anybody who sees this, but I didn't think it would be Takano specifically. I guess I probably should have expected that. There probably wasn't much doubt that Takano-san was convinced I was involved in some sort of crime. If she knew about everything happening with Sadako, then she might have even guessed that I killed somebody. Ka-click. Takano-san opened the passenger side door for me.
You're sure you don't need my shoulders? I wouldn't mind doing it for you again, hehehe.
I ignored her and answered by getting out of the car by myself. The rain was still pretty intense. I got my bicycle out of the back seat. I was a bit curious who the other bike belonged to, but that didn't matter right now. I let Takano-san hold the umbrella over me, then pushed my bicycle up to the front door.
Thank you very much. I'll be fine now.
My ankle hurt so much earlier, and it still did, but it aggravated me that it hadn't even been that bad. It was really, seriously, terrible luck.
Alright, I'll be leaving then. Keep it a secret that we had a nice evening drive together by ourselves, okay? Especially from Jiro-san.
Jiro-san? Oh, she meant Tomatake-san. I suppose she calls him by his first name. His full name must be Jiro Tomatake then. And then, the other bike, the folding one in the back seat that I didn't care about at first, suddenly came to mind. Who wants to be Flashback Tomatake?
Hey, excuse me, you're from Hinamizawa, right?
On the day before yesterday, as I watched near the dam, half asleep, Tomatake-san had talked to me. And the bicycle he'd been riding, it was...
That bicycle in the back belongs to Tomitake-san, doesn't it?
Takano-san...
Yay, good job, Katie.
Yay! Takano-san's eyes. I think they sharpened for a moment.
And why do you think that?
I saw it when I met him before. The frame stood out to me.
But wouldn't that be odd? Do you think it's possible for this to be Jiro-san's bike?
Odd, huh?
Takano-san, her hair elegantly fluttering, peers into my eyes.
Well, there are no bed and breakfasts in Hinamizawa, are there? Jiro-san would need to be staying in town.
Is that so? Well, I guess that's right, huh?
You can't really walk from town to Hinamizawa, can you? And there are no buses either. You need at least a bicycle.
I don't like where this is going. She didn't need to tell me that. That's why Jiro-san was riding a bike.
For Jiro-san's bicycle to be stowed in my car, and him not in there, that would be strange, wouldn't it? It'd mean Jiro-san was in Hinamizawa without a bike. I'd have to have left Jiro-san somewhere and put his bike in a car, wouldn't I? It wouldn't make sense.
As she spoke, Takano-san made eyes like a hawk. Unfortunately, I didn't really understand what was so odd.
What about that is odd? Aren't you and Tomitake-san friends? I don't really think it would be strange for there to be some reason you had his bicycle in your car.
But it would be. What I mean is, Jiro-san and his bicycle being in different places in Hinamizawa wouldn't make sense. And for those reasons, it means his bicycle can't be his. Do you understand now?
Thank you for the threatening mic close-in.
You're welcome.
Takano-san's roundabout way of talking was hard to comprehend. But that eeriness I could feel, that vague dreadfulness, I didn't like it at all.
She's on her way home from her own murder.
Yeah! The two killers just happened to meet up.
They bond over their murders.
Anyway, but the most wild, instinctive part of me warns me not to pry.
That's my bicycle. Jiro-san picked it out for me, though, so I can't deny that it looks alike.
Ah, I see now. I thought it looked similar.
Oh, I need to un-4x3, hold on.
She's squished.
There we go.
You and I never saw each other tonight. So you're gonna take a screenshot?
I am, yes. And now she was talking about something completely different.
What are you talking about?
You and I never saw each other tonight.
I stayed there, not knowing what to say, and Takano-san repeated her eerie, succinct phrase to me again.
You and I never met this night. You and I never saw each other tonight.
Did you know that Ryukishi likes to... Something cold and unpleasant crawled up my spine. I knew, because I killed a person with my own hands before. I came to the conclusion that I only had one chance to beat this woman to death to keep her quiet, and I couldn't hesitate, so I could tell that she'd arrived at the very same conclusion. My instincts warned me again. I wish I never met this woman. The faint sense, like a rotten smell drifting from this woman, was no doubt the exact same sense that I was giving off right now. The very peculiar aspiration, the lack of uncertainty at taking a human's life for a purpose, that only those who have risen above everything had. Actually, maybe I should have called it a nausea. It meant I didn't know how to explain this very well, but Takano-san was the same as me! Yeah!
The same type of stand.
they both have murder-type stands. Anyway, in other words, someone who shouldn't have been here. Someone I couldn't have let anybody know was here. Someone who nobody would have wanted to see. And now that we could calmly pretend as though we had never met. Yes. Which meant that, just as I wanted to have nothing else to do with her, she didn't want anything to do with me either. And she, too, wanted to make it so that we never met. Both of us wished for the same thing. Our desires were the same, which meant that Takano-san's suggestion was extremely practical. And I couldn't outright refuse.
If that's fine with you, then sure. Whatever. You and I didn't meet this night.
You're right. That would be best for you, too, wouldn't it?
Why do you think that?
Oh!
Are you seriously asking me that? You can't figure that out on your own, boy.
Oh, I gotta take a screenshot of that. That's great. She cut me off with the condescending word, boy. Right in front of my house, in a place most unsuited to killing. And yet, there was a frozen thirst for blood, coming from both of us. I would be killed right here, right now. Yeah. Then I should have definitely beaten her as we passed each other. A damp, greasy sweat broke out on my body. That's fine. If you want me, then you can come anytime. When I made up my mind, she shook her hair elegantly and turned on her heel.
Good.
There we go.
I am a kind person, after all.
What was good? How? Because she was a kind person? Was that it? I didn't get it. Takano-san got into her car. We didn't exchange any words of parting. I had performed a massive feat, the killing of Sadako's uncle, and yet I didn't feel any accomplishment. On the holy night of Oyashiro-sama's curse, on which the taking of another's life was allowed. On the terribly rainy night, when the demons wandered, as agents of Oyashiro-sama's will. The demons were never supposed to meet, but suddenly, they did. The demons parted ways triumphantly. There was no reason for them to fight. Both their objectives had already been accomplished. With the rain hitting me like a waterfall, my eyes met with Takano-san's through the car window. The female demon, her mouth twisted into a distorted, fearless smile. It was too late to kill her. Far too late. That first moment, the very first moment we saw each other, had been my best chance. And now that we had parted like this, I was acutely aware of it. So that means that when she saw Keiichi, her first thought was probably also, I probably gotta kill this kid. I should not have let her live! Oh, it's all spaced out! She beeped her horn quickly, then her car drove away into the deluge. The one woman who knew what really happened tonight disappeared into the dark. As long as she was alive, this night would never really end. Just get into an accident, I thought to myself. In this downpour, slip on some mud or something, and fly face first into a tree, and die. That wasn't a delusion, a wild flight of fantasy. It was an earnest wish. Yes, it was a command. Die. Die. And keep your mouth shut for eternity. Because I have no doubt you're wishing for me to die all the same. My curse upon her faded emptily as Takano's taillights disappeared into the utter darkness. Her car's lights were completely out of sight now. Even the sound of the engine faded into the sound of the rain and was inaudible now. I, too, turned on my heel. To draw the curtains on this insane night. To open my front door and end it all. Oh yeah, by the way, I want to mention, I brought this up to Wallcroft earlier, but I rewatched some of the drinking game while I was sober, and I think I want to maybe backpedal on saying that Tomatake and Takano are working together. It kind of seemed like a lot of his lines could go either way on that, so yeah. Anyway, moving on. Backpedal like how Keiichi has to backpedal on his bike. I began walking towards the front door. I was covered in mud, and I made a squishing sound with every step I took. Squish. Squish. Don't worry, Keiichi Maibara. Squish. Squish. She'll die. Squish. Squish. Her end will be as miserable as she is. I'll throw her into some flames alive and let her dance until she's burned to a crisp. I'll burn her to ashes in the fires of hell itself until she's roasted as much as she deserves.
I wish. I really do.
Squish. Huh? Just now, I hadn't taken a step, and yet, a footstep. Without emotion, I turned around. If there was a footprint that wasn't my own, then it was obvious someone else was behind me. Was somebody else there? I was sick of this. Whoever it was, I was sick of everything tonight. This time, I would kill them. I'd kill them without a second thought. I wouldn't hesitate to turn around and dig another hole. But, fortunately, there was nobody there. I wasn't going to have to kill any more people tonight. This night, I couldn't handle any more of it. Even if I heard an extra footstep each time I stopped, I put it down to just me being tired.
I just love the idea of Keiichi going around killing every witness. You know in Skyrim when you murder someone, there's like an NPC that witnesses it, and so you have to murder them, but then there's another
somebody
NPC
else
that
witnesses it, and
then...
Alright, our tips are Fire from Hell and Victim of the Fifth Year.
And then one of them turns out to be essential, so you just can't do anything about that.
And then you just go like, hey, I'm the Thane, bitch.
Keiichi's like, 1,000 bounty added to Hinamizawa.
Keiichi's like, I'm the Thane. Let me go.
He would not be a Thane.
He would not be.
Listen, with how easy it is to become a Thane of Whiterun, come on, he could be a Thane. It's like
What the fuck
actually a
do you
joke.
mean?
Anyway,
Yeah, because you're the fucking, like, chosen one.
okay.
How do you become a Thane of Whiterun for anyone else?
What makes
Can't
you
just
think
kill
he's not the
dragons.
chosen one? Tell me.
Because he said he's not the protagonist several times.
Anyway,
He does not have chosen one
Well,
wife.
Keiichi's usually wrong, so...
Yeah.
yeah, so then he is the chosen one, and he can be the Thane, and he can get his bounty.
Thane is
that way.
actually Oishi.
Oishi gets a 1 free crime in every hold. Anyway, he already used it on this chapter on the grabbing children thing, so.
The only thing that actually changes the timelines between chapters is where Oishi uses up his free crime.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not a crime in the 80s.
Okay, let's move on. So, the achievement was called Taking Extra Steps, brushed by a close encounter.
Actually,
And it has a picture of the bike. Anyway.
that would mean chapter 2 is the default state of things, because his free use of the crime there is bringing porn to a child in a hospital. There. Which happens at the very end of the chapter. So that is
So-
just the natural, like,
So,
timeline alpha.
so wait, what that means is Oishi not committing a crime early on is what causes all the deaths to happen in Watanagashi. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he has to do some crime to prevent everything.
Why did he commit a crime in the first chapter?
He
We don't
might
know.
have stolen the note, we're not sure. Anyway,
Wasn't that the end of the chapter?
yeah. Anyway, so
So
But
Fire...
wait, hold on. What if Shishibona City
Can we
and
move on with the tips, please?
Hinamizawa
No.
have different...
Look, I'm pretty
Right.
sure this tip
No,
is
we're-
going to be about them finding her body in the barrel
No,
again.
look.
But
No, look, we're theory crafting. Keiichi is definitely the Thane of Hinamizawa.
shut up! I'm moving on to
It's
the
got a big
tip.
house.
Actually, wait, don't shut up. Does anyone want to take this?
Hello? Do you need the hospital or the fire department?
I'm the fire department.
Is there a fire or some other accident? Please speak slowly and calmly.
I think it's a fire. This is the rest area on the highway. I can see a ton of fire and smoke coming up from the mountains behind us. Nobody goes back there, so I don't know why anything got lit on fire. Anyways, I figured I should let you know. It could turn into a forest fire.
The accent changed like 3 times in that one line.
I like how the emergency guy said to speak slowly and calmly, and to speak clearly, and you just got a worse accent on the very next line. I understand. I need to know exactly where you are, so please tell me your name, a phone number we can use to get in touch with you, and the exact location of the fire. Notice from the fire department headquarters, we have report of a suspicious fire in the western slopes of the blank mountain.
Probably Lake Gifu or something.
Given its distance from the road, it could be a couple bonfires or someone unlawfully burning trash. Location is deep in the woods. No homes in the area, but the fire could spread. Immediately go to the site to verify.
Come on, guys.
Is
I
this
just did
fire
like
station-
so much narration.
Is it-
This is the Blank District Fire Department branch. We arrived moments ago at the reported area. Fire confirmed to be burning oil drum left in the mountains. Fire is calming and there is no chance it will spread. And, well, in the oil drum, I think it might be a person. Like a person burned with kerosene or something. Well, I think maybe we should get the police over here. There's no mistaking it. This is a person.
Okay, so they found Takano's body again. But we also know from chapter 2 that's probably not actually Takano. Anyway, victim of the 5th year. Here we go. Guessing this is an Oishi tip, so... Yep, okay.
It's yours, course, then.
We don't have our usual here, so...
That's what it looks like. He kills them differently every year, but this is particularly conspicuous, isn't it?
Blowing out your own throat. That isn't normal.
Let's leave the rest of the old man in forensics. I'm sure he'll find some suspicious drugs that make you kill yourself.
Thank you for your hard work. Oh, did you want that?
Oh, Oi-san. Komiyama-san and the others have arrived.
Did you want this, Crumble?
No.
Okay. Oishi-san.
Oishi-san, much appreciated. Well, it would seem you have a pretty crazy one this year.
Yes, we've been outsmarted. I was absolutely under the impression Teppei Hojo would get killed tonight.
That's definitely a screenshot.
Who is the deceased?
Jiro Tomitake, a photographer with a hobby for coming to Hinamizawa a few times a year. We didn't even have him marked.
That's actually probably an important detail.
I wonder what's happened. Did they realize we were watching the Hojo residence the whole time and decided to switch the target?
Maybe. We sure flipped this one.
And there are no problems with Teppei Hojo?
Correct. His daughter left for the festival in the evening. A little while later, he left on his motorbike. His daughter came back first. Wait. Has he not come back yet? Is he still out drinking somewhere?
Oishi-san, are you there? Call from Chief Takasugi. He's on the line in the car 1.
What time is it right now? We got like 10 more minutes. Let's keep going. At first, I thought it was a dream. I was staring at this strange sheet, not really understanding what it was. That was all. I didn't go after it, nor did I ridicule it. The fact was that the boring view was the ceiling of my own room, but I didn't realize that for a fairly long time. Wait, would you say it was a familiar ceiling, Geiichi? Yes. I thought I had been dreaming, but I had actually been staring at the ceiling the whole time.
Yes, Hinamizawa!
Hell yeah. Lethargy induced by the voices of the cicadas. Even after I realized I was awake, I couldn't draw forth the energy to sit up. Gee, I wonder why! Everything I could see, everything I could hear, everything was like a television broadcast that had already ended. It was hot. So hot I could choke on the heat. My back was moist with night sweats, and it felt gross. Unable to endure it any longer, I tossed in my futon, and finally, blood started coursing through my brain. I lazily recalled the long day I had yesterday. The reality, as I lay there listening to the voices of the cicadas. And yesterday, so different from it. In order to kill Sadako's uncle, I had rehearsed, formulated a plan, and dug a hole. It was very hot, and I was tired, wasn't I? And when evening came, I went to school and called him out on the phone. I panicked for a moment when he asked where the police station was, but it worked out. And then I awaited him and swooped down. I couldn't remember anymore what sort of emotions I'd let control my body. In any case, it didn't go smoothly, but I did it. It was very hard to dig the hole for the body. That feel of the rain pelting down on me, I don't think I'll ever forget it. The rain, the mud, and the sprays of blood. The sensation of floundering in a swamp. When I met Takano-san on the way home, that wasn't good, no matter how I interpreted it. It was the most misfortunate and uncalculated thing that had happened that night. Everything would have been perfect, if only I hadn't encountered her. I was just riding my bike, with my shovel in one hand, through the downpour, utterly soaked. There was no way someone could surmise I was a murderer burying a body just from that information. Now that I was thinking calmly, napping under the morning sun, that's what I thought. Still, the more I think about Takano-san's eyes, it seemed like she understood. Takano-san, she knew that I'd killed someone, buried them, and that I'd been on my way home, exhausted. Takano-san wouldn't gain anything from selling me out to the police. But that didn't mean I could feel at ease.
I should have killed her.
I had crossed such a bridge to get my tranquil life back, and I'd finally achieved it as a result. But now, for the rest of my life, for all the tranquil days starting today, I'd have to live in fear of when they could suddenly end. I may have twisted my ankle, dulled from total exhaustion. The fact that I couldn't make the snap judgment I needed to, I regretted it more and more as time went on. You didn't have a choice, Keiichi Maibara. You didn't have any choice at the time. You were tired. You were a mess. Even if you had made the decision, you might not have been able to kill her. She might have just beaten you instead. In that sense, parting ways uneventfully could have been the safer option. No matter how sharp Takano-san's intuition was, she had no proof. Her suspecting me didn't amount to evidence by itself.
Logically, I know that. But that doesn't mean I have nothing to worry about, does it?
Just worry about it when the time comes. Now isn't the time to be worrying. It's the time to be smiling, right? You accomplished so much just to gain a new life starting today, didn't you? Then you should be happy at this new morning. If remembering the past is too hard to you, then just consider everything up to yesterday as having never happened. You said so yourself. You'd bury it all like it never happened. Well, your wish came true. Everything before yesterday never happened. So be happy, Keiichi Maibara.
Yay!
Yay! I stuck up my hands lazily. It felt a little silly for me to be the one doing it. I heaved a sigh from deep in my belly. That sigh got my lungs moving. It felt like I hadn't been breathing until just now. It wasn't enough to admonish myself over. Oh hey, Soggy, look, here's your proof that he's a zombie from the drug that makes you kill yourself. See, there's your proof. He hadn't been breathing up until now, but now he's breathing. Anyway.
Takano-san was like huffing it in her car.
She had like a hookah for the drug that makes you kill yourself.
She was boxing with the drug that makes you kill yourself in her car.
Hold on, Keiichi. I need to take a hit of my vape.
All the all the dice that could be thrown already had been. And the numbers that turned up weren't bad at all. If I lost with those numbers, then I'd just have to give up, I guess. I grabbed the chest of my pajamas and flapped it back and forth. Cool air flowed over my sweating body. Okay. Nothing before yesterday happened. Nothing. Nothing at all. I'd forget it all. Yesterday was all a dream. What time was it? About midday? Getting myself up and going to school this late seemed kind of absurd. But I needed to go. I felt like going to school would be the first step into my new peaceful life. I didn't care how late it was. I would go. She was hotboxing swamp gas. I'd go to school right now and get back to the life I had retaken as soon as I could. My lazy body immediately became lighter at the thought. I rolled out of the futon, bounced onto my knees, then leaned upright.
Nice! Stuck the landing.
Nice! I stuck out my chest with pride at my gymnast-like pose, then took a deep breath of fresh air. The brisk morning air had been gone for a while, replaced by the crisp air of summer. Downstairs, I got a stern talking to by my mother. Where were you last night? When did you get back? You didn't tell me when you won't be home for dinner. Things like that. But considering the importance of what I'd accomplished yesterday, a little scolding was no problem. In fact, it even felt like the sort of thing that would happen in such a peaceful life. I listened with an irresponsible smile and stepped out into the sun high overhead. I think maybe that's a good stopping point since he's just stepped out of his door. And also we're 2 minutes till time anyway. Alright, well that was
a spicy session for sure.
What do you mean? Literally nothing happened.
This is true.
Nothing happened before today. We're just having a happy, fun school time. We're going to school in the middle of the day, normal things. And we're gonna have a happy time, okay? So,
No.
Until next time, YouTube, on this fun slice of life VN.